And the reason I'm apologizing is because I'm only 5 years into the ministry, and it's not for another 5 that I get to influence the weather. So we said, okay, let's just come on and bring it on inside. But we are so glad that you are here. At Bloomfield Congregational Church, we're hosting this. We're partnering with the group, Not Just Us. And I think that resonates with me so much, that phrase, not just us, because I don't know about you. With everything that's going on today, it can be isolating. It can make me feel like I am on my own. It can make me feel that we are just a small drop trying to fight something so much bigger than a drop can actually do. But when it is not just us, when it is all of you and different organizations that you represent, then each of those drops become more, and nothing can resist water. Water always gets its way eventually. Water always gets its way eventually. And what we're about, and this is not a faith-oriented event here, but we're in the church, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about living water, right? We need some living water in the world today, because there is bad water out there being sold as good water. And when there is bad water being sold as good water, people think they're doing the right thing, and they are being destroyed from the inside. And so if we're going to do something about this, we need to provide good living water, and we need to be vocal. We need to be there for each other to know that we are here. I did not even know half the people in this room until just now, and that makes the power so much more magnified in this world, which is what the Holy Spirit does, is take our work and magnify it in ways that we can't do on our own. So if we take all of this power and not just us and do this and rely on the living water, rely on the different ways that we can come together, we can change anything. Now, recently I've published a couple write-ups in the local paper, and I've been challenged on a couple of those for various reasons. But one of them was they didn't think that I was speaking specifically enough about local context, that I was talking too much generally about things in the world and in the country and in the state. And the thing about hate, the thing that I think is so important for us to recognize, it's easy to point out there. It's easy to say, look at all that hate over in Israel and Palestine. It's easy to say, look at all that hate that's going on in other states. It's easy to say, look at all that stuff that's being said down in Florida and Texas and Arkansas and Arizona and the laws being put on the books. There is hate right here in Bloomfield. There's hate right here in Bloomfield. And unless we are willing to acknowledge that and face that, unless we are willing to do that, sure, we can talk in platitudes and do whatever we want, but we can do things here in this town. And so I am publicly committing to each and every one of you that I am committed to putting my name, my time, my effort, my reputation here to working on that right here, right now. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you to all the speakers. I hope this is meaningful for you. And now I will hand it on to the people who are actually running this show.
Thank you, Reverend. I met Reverend last year in Hartford. We were marching for rights in the city of Hartford. And so when I sent it out, an email to all the different organizations saying, would you be willing to co-sponsor with us? I have never gotten a quicker response before Reverend Sean. He called me and said, I'm so sorry I'm late. I said, Reverend, I just left it to you this morning. He's that dedicated for civil rights and human rights and all the rights of everybody. Not just us started because I am a parent of 3 kids. 2 of my children are children of color, the 2 youngest ones. And so I went to a school meeting with my oldest one at a GIA meeting, a Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance. And at the GIA meeting, there was a A.J. Johnson, a pastor of a church in Hartford, who grew up in Rocky Hill. And he said he always felt like an outsider in Rocky Hill. And I wanted to make sure, so I asked, my daughter, expressed concerns. We then started something called Community Conversations just in Rocky Hill, but it needed to get outside of Rocky Hill because of the fact that I was asked to go to the superintendent's office and to meet with him because I requested the meeting. I wanted to know why my oldest one was saying that there are no teachers of color and that the books are not, she said the books look like her, not her two sisters. So that is... that was a big concern for me. So I started reaching out, and more towns across the state were having issues. Right now, Not Just Us has over 700 members across the state of Connecticut, represented by different faiths. We have worked with the Muslim, Hindu, Buddhism, Christian, and I think there's others. We are nonpartisan. We want to hear from the Democrats. We want to hear from the Republicans. We have, our inclusion is that we want everybody of color, children of color, disabilities, Native Americans, foster and adoptive, lower income, LGBTQIA to all come together and say enough for our kids are gonna learn the truth, not alternative facts. So as a result, I had worked with a woman from Power Connecticut. Her name is Corinne Prescott, and we held the first rally in Hartford, and so and I think some of you guys were there. I know my co-admins were there. One of my co-admins is right there, by the name of Christopher Dukes. He'll be speaking later. Then my other co-admins are Wayne Winston he'll talk about his book. He's also going to be your master of ceremony. He was from the Harriet Tubman, down in Atlanta. He is an on-air personality in Rocky Hill, or not Rocky Hill, Bridgeport. And then this gentleman over here is Jeremy Farrell. He'll talk about what Justice Southbury has been doing every Sunday without fail since the George Floyd deaths. Then my other administrator sitting in the back, her name is Laura Timmons. Laura Timmons is Middletown Pride. And so what we learned is if it affects one town, it affects every town. So that's why I wanted to make this a statewide collaborative and not just a Rocky Hill collaborative. And, there were nooses found up in Enfield. My child went to school in Bloomfield, but all the superintendents sent it out. There were nooses found. And that's why I called Corinne and said, Corinne, we got to do something. She said, you're the one who has to do something. You're the white guy. So she's right. She's right. So I took that and we went with it. We have been in 12 different cities. This is our 12th event. We have done 6 this year and 6 last year. So what we want to do is make sure everybody brings a voice to the table. What we want to do is there was a representative in Wallingford. His name was Craig Fishbein, and he came to Rocky Hill. And he was saying that he wanted to lock up kids. He described that he didn't come up with names. He didn't say they're black, but he was describing the features. You know what? Those were the features of my kids. My kids have never been involved in the law. We need to work together to ensure that kids and families are moved away from the school to prison pipeline and put onto the school to success pathways. And that is the reason what we do. And as I said, I thank you all for being here. And with that, I'm going to introduce my MC, my co-admin, my right-hand man, and that is Wayne Winston.
I definitely have to give him another recognition because it's not easy to get out as a white man. Yes, we're going to talk about race today. We're talking about gays. We're going to talk about Jews. We're going to talk about the whole thing that is the roots of the hate that we're fighting here. Because they tell us you can't really talk about politics and you can't really talk about race and you can't talk about rights. Well, women lost their right to choose, and that was political. whoever sits in these positions of power are extremely, extremely, extremely important because they're making decisions for all of us. If you take slavery, slavery was always morally wrong, but was it legal? It was legal for hundreds of years. So was segregation. They tried to tell you who to love, black or white, gay or straight, and they didn't give us any choice because it was the law. A challenge in the Supreme Court. Plessy versus Ferguson says black people have no rights that a white person basically had to respect. Think of how when you tell a whole country that. We know what happens when you tell kids they're not smart, or there's something, they're too fat, they're too thin, they're gay, or whatever. Imagine a whole country you told that to. And then you put laws in place to make sure that happens. So good people like yourself would be punished if you tried to do the right thing. Buses were burned just to get people like us together and vote because they wanted control of that power. For myself, I've served in a lot of different organizations, a lot, and I'll only mention them because they're pertinent to this. One, I'm fortunate enough to be on the board of the national board of the Harriet Tubman Learning Center. And it's out of Powder Springs, Georgia. However, I'm fortunate to be the top board member, and I live in Connecticut. The family I talk with every month, Rita Daniels and her people, she still has an aunt that's 91 years old. And they are very concerned about what's going on in this country. I live down in Trumbull. Trumbull just got the same drops that you got. This company, this organization, is well-funded outside this state. It's the same one that's in Massachusetts. It's the same one that is here. They've targeted the Northeast, and their baseline is white male replacement theory. If you don't know what that means, it means while we were making changes with George Floyd, who knew that was going to be the thing? Here's the most horrible thing that could happen. People were dying with illness we'd never seen before, which became COVID. A policeman kneels on the neck of a black man for 9 minutes, and the light came on in America. Maybe there is something wrong going on. White people, black people, Asian people, it was a global situation that says, America, you have something wrong that's going on. All of those picketing, all of us standing together, well, there was people who didn't want that. They said, wait a minute, hold it. They're coming together. They're actually getting in the dreaded DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh my God, they're indoctrinating our kids. But see, as funny it is, it was real for them. And they organized around it. And they sought to dismantle DEI, and they've done a pretty good job if you think about it. There's towns that literally took out the E in equity in this state out. So it's diversity and inclusion. Well, what's equity? Well, equity is, look, if you bring me in, let's say we all got a job, right? If you bring me in, you don't pay me what you pay the next person. That's equity. If you're building structures and you're not including my people, quote, demographic, whether they're female, black, whatever, it's the same thing. That's what the equity is about. They saying the people, the other side, the far right, they're saying equity means you're trying to make me feel bad. In fact, what you're teaching is making white kids feel bad about who they are. How do you think black kids felt? Now, I'll deal with the black people for a minute because in a moment, other than indigenous people, no one has had more laws passed against them in this country than what the United States Supreme Court did for black people. And they kept passing them and passing them and passing them. And let's be real, when you put a bullet in the head of a peacemaker, that's pretty serious. And all he was saying is, I want my kids to go to school with your kids. I think I should be able to sit down at the same restaurant. I shouldn't have to come in the back door. If I love somebody else, I should be able to love them, and no one should punish me. And no one should punish the good white people who knew that was evil, who are the majority of people in this country. They shouldn't be punished. Right now, we're in a battle this second from last week to this week. This was important before, but it's even more so now, because the Republicans have a section called the far right. Now, it should be called what it really is. The far right is the white supremacist branch of our nation. They've got nice names that make you feel good, Christian Coalition, things like that, I mean, the American this and American that. And let me correct, Christian Coalition is okay. Let me make sure if there's anybody in here. But they get these names, they wrap the flag around. There's a guy, Jim Jordan. Everybody was afraid Jim Jordan would be elected. Well, instead, they got Mark Johnson. He's the quiet guy in the back. You know the person who's behind pulling levers? That's who he is. He's against every single thing that the people in this room are for. He doesn't believe in gay marriage. He believes in banning abortion across the country. Everybody should have children. He believes women should basically be pregnant and in the kitchen. He also believes you can only have an abortion after 6 weeks, when most women wouldn't even know they're pregnant. This is what he stands for. He is now the Speaker of the House for the Republican Party, and I didn't vote him in there. It was the people across this country when President Barack Obama was in, and that group we're talking about were very upset. And they said, we have to get our own people in. And that's what they did, and we had the Tea Party, which was that third party that we never had in America. Obama's gone, and it's gone. I'm going to wind it up with this before I bring the next person up. This is about what we want our country to look like right now. It has never been more important, again, to be politically aware. It does matter religiously who is sitting in there. Jim Jordan's wife runs a counseling service right now that equates being gay to bestiality. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Mike Johnson is the new Speaker of the House, 3 seats from the White House. That's what they equate this on. Everything that we talked to today, check your Google. It's in there. And don't forget Richard Spencer, because he created the alt-right to reach into the young people and give them the idea that maybe they're missing out, maybe they need to be on their side. Remember, racists aren't born, they're taught. So those things on your lawn, you be very careful, because they're sending a message to your kids in this new generation to go online and come check out what we're talking about, because maybe they're disenfranchised and broken in their community, and they want them to join. And that's how it happens, and you may not know as a parent. So that's why what's happening in this state is real. I just want to make you conscious of that. And we got to remember, it matters who are in positions of power. And I want to thank again this church for bringing us inside rather than outside. And the quick response. Okay, gotcha. So next I'm going to bring up a gentleman that I met some time ago. However, he is a community leader up here, running for mayor. Okay, and he's stopping by. We're talking Reverend Stan McCauley. You can give him some love. And he is part of the Greater Hartford African American Alliance. He does an amazing podcast. He's going to be president and does an amazing podcast. Make sure that you tune in to this gentleman right here.
All right. He forgot to tell you that I was a talkaholic. I'm in recovery, but I'm not doing well. So, how much time do I have? No, if you know me, I could talk for like 3 hours, not take a breath. But I'm going to break one of my cardinal rules, and I have all kinds of. I do television production. And I generally don't talk about any of my clients but I think I will, only because of something that he said. But it's germane to the subject at hand. Just last week, I was on location down in Greenwich. Anyone here from Greenwich? No one here from Greenwich? You get off the highway, you go to Greenwich, you know how you see like a pinstripe suit? And then you see one that's like, $150 suit. Then you see like the $3,000 pinstripe suit. And like every stitch is perfect. All of the pinstripes are perfect. That's how it is when you get off the highway and you roll into Greenwich. The bricks are perfect. The lights are perfect. The parks, the Parks and Rec department was on a pier. I'm like, so I was at the museum called the Bruce Museum, and they spent $90 million on this museum. And I am, one of those people who is, this is a mix of people. I am pro-life, but one of my number one clients that will adjust their events around my schedule is Planned Parenthood of Connecticut. Planned Parenthood. And some gripping stories that will just put you in tears. But the reason I cover and do productions for Planned Parenthood is because I believe that people deserve to have a voice. And the only reason I wouldn't cover them is because it would serve me. And who am I? I'm just one guy with an opinion. And I say that to say this. Everyone know what anti-venom is? You get bit by a snake, and if you don't get the anti-venom, you're going to die. Well, love is the anti-venom. All right? And love is not what it says. It's what it does. Love is an action. All right? And the poison is self. Self. We are exceedingly self-serving. Now, I posted on my website that this event was happening, not my website, on my Facebook page, that this event was happening and that, support it if you can. And like immediately, one of the leaders of the quote unquote big time, anti-hate group said they wouldn't be participating. You probably saw that. They would not be participating because they didn't get along with him. Because the individual is very self-serving. So if we have folks who are against hating other folk, how far are we going to get? It's like running a marathon with 20-pound lead shoes on. You're not going to get anywhere. All right? And so at the end of the day, the crux of hate is when we serve self. I don't like the fact that you cross the street in the middle of the street instead of at the corner, so I'm going to make sure I do something to stop you. And one of the greatest weapons hate uses is the law. You set up rules and then you justify the rules so that you can serve self and perpetuate your brand of hate. Everybody has their own brand of hate. And hate stares you in the mirror every morning when you brush your teeth. Some folk hate themselves. Because they hate themselves, they project that hate onto everybody else. I can't imagine living in the Middle East right now, where there are two groups of people so filled with hatred for the other that they would annihilate themselves. Anybody in here a Trekkie? My man back there. All right. If he wasn't a Trekkie, we wouldn't be friends. You know? No, I'm just joking. We go way back to the beginning. In the beginning, there was Pastor Sean. Right. There's one of the famous episodes where everybody was black on one side and white on the other side, and they annihilated the whole planet. These two were chasing each other around the galaxy, and they brought them together and jumped to the end of the story. Their planet was in cinders. They were the only two people from their planet left, and they beamed down, and then, it's inferred that they killed each other. And that's what we will wind up doing if we don't find a way to put self second. So whether it's Republican against Democrat, Democrat against Green Party, working families against the Communist Party, against the Liberal Party, and this, that, and the other party, everybody is trying to move forward an agenda for themselves instead of someone else. So to follow in the footsteps of he who actually can stop rain. He's the reason it's raining. He called me last night. He says, I don't like the fact this is going to be sunny. I want to invite people into the church, so I'm going to have it rain. I'm just joking, Pastor Sean. All right. I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that we are actually in a church, and the word says that we are to esteem others higher than ourselves. And when we begin to do that, we will have opened the vial of anti-venom, taken the shot that we need to sustain us by lifting someone up that you don't agree with. Then you will see love in action. So my challenge for you today is to find someone you don't like, find someone you don't get along with, and take them out to dinner and get to know them. Be surprised what you can learn about someone sitting across the table with a plate of food. You'll find out that they're very much like you. People probably have 90% of things in common, and it's the 10% that people get all bent out of shape over. Now imagine if people took the same attitude they have for all these other things and applied it to the dinner menu. Like, you gonna eat fried egg in my presence? You know that's wrong. Egg's supposed to be scrambled. We got a fried egg person here, y'all. We need to beat her to death and drag her out into the street. Oh, you like grits? Oh, you like, imagine if we treated one another that way over. People can eat whatever they want, right? And I'm going to give you a demonstration of equity, because it's actually done all over the world, and there are people who go out of their way to provide this equity. There are many examples of it in this room. Many of you, I actually do wear glasses. I started out not wearing glasses, but, I said it increased my IQ by 50 points, so I would just get glasses that had clear lens, and I would wear them around because it make you look smart. Now I need them to see. All right? But this is the perfect example of equity. This corrective lens gives you 20/20 vision. That's equity. No one hates you for it. You want to be able to see. Everyone wants you to be able to see, because they want you to see what they look like, so they can make sure you have 20/20 vision. Why don't we put on the equity glasses of love, and when we see each other, let us see ourselves in them and do what we can to lift up one another and put this horrible, horrible disease of hate behind us. Be encouraged. I'm going to do the same thing Brother Sean's doing. And I'm here to help you any way I can. Hopefully in 8 days, you'll have the power of Hartford's mayor behind you. All right? God bless you all and keep you strong in the faith.
Okay, so you have a chance for that guy to be your mayor. Now, unfortunately, I'm down around the Trumbull way, so they would arrest me, or I'd be part of the problem. 'Cause, crossing the lines, voting out. Anyway, that's a whole other story. You know where I'm going with that. I want to bring up a local state representative, and Mr. Bobby Gibson. Okay, and due to the amount of speakers we have, we're going to do 3 minutes out of love and get everybody sorted out. Greatly appreciate it. And I know he got some good stuff to say. So, Mr. Gibson, come on over here, man. This is all yours. Thank you, brother. Oh, just hit this.
No, this one's not working. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. It's a pleasure, truly is, to be here before you to say a couple words, and I will try not to go over 3 minutes. I'm not a preacher. Sorry, Pastor Sean, that was meant for Stan McCauley. So I am your Connecticut State Representative. I'm also the Deputy Speaker of the House, but I'm not going to speak from that today. I'm going to speak more so from my stance as an assistant principal, which I do during the day, and just as a regular guy. Stan McCauley said something about love. And Dr. King said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. But, Pastor Sean, I have a problem, because in September 15th of 1963, there was a bomb placed in a church in Alabama, and it killed 4 girls. A couple years ago, I had to go out to the Amazon plant and fight against nooses that were hung up in that facility. There's a memorial down in Alabama also where 4,000 nooses are hung to show the hatred that has gone on in our world. And I dare to say those are only 4,000 of the ones that were documented. Just last week, a gunman up in Maine killed, 20 people. So, Pastor Sean and the rest of you, I'm talking to you as a regular person. I have a problem when Stan McCauley says we have to love and Dr. King says we have to love. Because it makes you mad, and we're human, right? So we have that emotion. God gave us that emotion to be mad. But Pastor Sean and the rest of you, I was here about 2 weeks ago. And Pastor Sean talked about forgiveness. And he said, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for us. He said, being mad, and Pastor Sean, I hope I get this right, you said being mad and not forgiving people is like drinking poison and looking for that other person to slowly die. In the Bible, it talks about forgive them for they know not what they do. And Pastor Sean, you said that what we must do is not okay to accept hate and those who do things bad against you, but to come together and undermine hate, undermine those who want to do bad things against you, whether it's on a national level or even right here in our town. We must undermine that hate by giving it more love, by talking and supporting one another, by having visuals and programs such as this. I think I'm getting it, Pastor Sean. I think I'm getting it. Because I cannot move forward just hating people, but I just can't stand back and let atrocities happen. The last time I spoke in this church, there was a war going on. Now there's 2 wars going on, and people are getting hurt. We just can't stand by and let it happen. Like Dr. King said, for evil to succeed, all it needs is for good people to stand by and do nothing. So I'm challenging myself in my school to talk to my kids, because I think it starts first with education. We got to educate our kids about understanding and loving one another. The differences between, yes, there's black and there's white, there's young and there's old, but you know what? We're all the same on the inside. And the more that we understand one another, the more that we can not fear one another. You know, when I passed that law, when I helped pass the Holocaust education bill, and then I passed, thank you. And I passed the Black Latino history bill. Thank you. Part of that was because there's differences out there that we don't understand. But if we are to understand, take the time to understand one another, know that our paths and our histories aren't all that different, we can stop hating one another, because you mostly hate because you don't understand something, you don't understand another person, and then you want to do bad by it. You want to do bad to them. So, I won't speak long. I can get sort of passionate on this. I just want to thank you for having this program. We need more programs like this. We need more discussions like this. We must love one another, but we can't just let bad things happen. We have to, again, Pastor Sean, attack them at the roots, give it more love, talk about the bad things that are going on, talk against what the bad things are going on. By doing that, we can uproot the evil. We can uproot what's going on in Israel against the Israeli people. We can uproot what's going on in Ukraine that's still going on that we don't talk about anymore. We can uproot all the things that are being hateful in our nation and even locally here in our town. So again, thank you for letting me share my short perspective. I hope I didn't go over my 3 minutes.
I got to tell you, I've been looking for him. He doesn't know that. I have a radio show down on WICC in Bridgeport. It's like one of the oldest in the state. Been around about 100 years. #1 talk station. I have about 30 minutes, and we talk about all of these issues since George Floyd. My co-partner on there is a white Jewish lawyer from Westport. So we get to talk about what's going on just like this. And we were talking about the education bill that you passed. We're one of the few states, and I believe we were the first one to pass one that made sure that African American and Latino history was brought into our schools, because it should not be a threat to know about other cultures. So I want to thank you again for that, and I'll be reaching out past this so we can get you to talk about it. Now, I had no idea that we would meet this gentleman, so before we bring the next person, we're not alone. That's why we're here. We're from different parts of the state because our pains are all the same, and we go, what do we do? First thing is talking about it and identifying it, and then you're going to talk about it amongst your friends beyond here. So, again, I've been looking for that gentleman for a moment. You just never know what you get, okay? Next, I want to bring up Rabbi Deborah Cantor.
Thank you. My glasses are just for fashion. First, thanks to Pastor Sean for inviting me to be part of this gathering today. Pastor Sean, I need to give you a little bit of advice because I've been a rabbi for a long time. You are not ever to say that you are in charge of the weather. I cannot tell you over the decades that I've been a rabbi how many people have come up to me and said, Rabbi, my daughter's wedding is such and such. Can you make sure it doesn't rain? Or, Rabbi, my kid's bar or bat mitzvah is on such and such a date in December or February. Can you make sure it doesn't snow? So I am very frequently reminding my congregation that I do not control the weather, and I don't even take, it's very important, Sean, do not even take credit ever for good weather, because that's just going to put you right in line to be blamed for bad weather. But I do love this, how you took the image of rain, of living water. You know, some people would be upset that it rained, but here you took it, and it's such a good clergy move. You know, you took it and you made it into a little homiletical point. of living water, mayim chayim, as we say in Hebrew. And the water, the mayim chayim, those living waters are a symbol not just in Judaism, and Christianity, and Islam, but a kind of a universal human symbol of transformation, right? The waters of the womb, of birth and rebirth. So as we meet today and it's raining, I love that image of Mayim Chayim, of something that can be birthed, that we can birth together, and a rebirth of coming together. In the book of Genesis, we read that God created the human being, Adam, the human, B'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image. Commenting on this, the Talmudic sages in the first 3-4 centuries of the Common Era, commenting on this, the sages declare Adam, that first human being, was created alone, to teach us that anyone who destroys a single soul, it is as if they have destroyed an entire world. And anyone who sustains or saves a single soul, it's as if they saved an entire world. A few centuries after the rabbi said that, the Quran taught similarly the same exact lesson in Surah 5, verse 32. Whoever saves a single soul, it is as if they have saved an entire universe. And we know that to be true. We know that to be true. When a person is destroyed, there are ripples and ripples and ripples of a universe that is gone. But what does this statement also mean? It teaches us, it implies that every single human being is of immeasurable worth. Of immeasurable worth. A single human being is tantamount to being the entire world. You can't put a price on that. It teaches us that every single human being, every single one of us, is unique. And yet, every single one of us equally contains Tselem Elohim, a spark of the divine. Now, this is not just a platitude. It's a radical notion. It's a radical notion. And imagine if we took it seriously. Because this is a notion that lies at the heart of all of our faiths and of humanism itself. That each of us is created with a spark of the divine. And yet, so many forces conspire against our realizing this in our daily lives. So many forces. Since the dawn of civilization, those in power have sought to deny to the rest of us basic human dignity and equality. And often one of the most successful tools for doing this by the folks in power has been to pit one oppressed or marginalized group against another. It works. It works beautifully. Works beautifully. Sadly, so often we fall for this. Believing the lies about the other, allowing those lies to prevent us from connecting with one another, from recognizing the divine spark in each and every person. Now, this is nothing new. This ploy did not begin with the internet and social media, but social media, for all that it connects us, also turns us against one another. And it does this deliberately. The algorithm All the algorithms are designed to empower the most extreme voices and to assign us to these little corners. Stay in your little corner. Hear the echoes of these extreme voices. So what are we to do? Not going to shut down social media. We're in the world that we're in. What does God call us to do? God calls us to resist this, to educate ourselves, as Bobby Gibson said, to be discerning, to question the things that we're told over and over and over, the big lies. And God calls us to build real relationships with real, actual people. And when we do that, it is so much more difficult for us to fall for the hateful rhetoric which fills our screens and our ears and our eyes every single day. When we do that, when we connect with real people, when we listen to their stories and tell them ours, when we share a cup of tea or coffee, when we reach out and offer another person our hand, then very often what happens is that our hearts break open. And we realize that what God really wants from us is kindness. Now, there's been a lot of talk about love. In Hebrew, there are a number of words for love, but there's a special word for love that I want to raise up, and that is the word chesed, which, when William Tyndale, centuries ago, decided to translate the Hebrew Bible into English, for which he was put to death, but that's a whole other story. When Tyndale went to and he was a Hebrew scholar, when he went to translate the Hebrew Bible into English, he came upon this word chesed, and he realized there's no English equivalent. And he made up a word. And the word is loving kindness. Loving kindness. That was never a word before William Tyndale made it up. And loving kindness is the kind of love that you can't just think about or feel. It is love in action. It is love that expresses itself in daily acts of kindness, of doing for one another. It's not big and showy. It's not some big, statement. It's daily what we do to care for one another when we're in need, when people are sick, when people are hurting. It's not flashy. It's daily. Chesed, loving kindness. So I want to conclude with one of my favorite poems, which is called Kindness. And it's by a wonderful poet, Naomi Shihab Nye. Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. And then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. Amen. Amen. So may it be with us.
For the sake of time, we are going to, well, we have wonderful speakers, and that's the problem with us wonderful speakers. We can go, man, myself included. So Jeremy here is going to be our timekeeper here. You'll hear his thing go off. And again, I resemble that remark, you know what I'm just saying. But we have a lot of great speakers. We appreciate everybody here, and we're going to do this again. This will not be the only one. So also we have water over here. If you want water, you know, some people want a little candy for a little energy pick-me-up. And I want to bring up Councilwoman Suzette DeBeetham Brown.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really bad to give a preacher a mic on a Sunday, but I'm going to try to behave myself. Pastor Sean, thank you as always for opening your doors and making space. I sat there, and once again, being a preacher, you can pick a message out of anything. I'm just saying. I love the sound of rain. For me, rain is soothing. For me, rain is cleansing. And we talked about water. We talked about people drinking bad water and people drinking good water. And it's up to us who are enlightened to make sure that people drink good water. But I also know the power of water. The pressure of water can cut through anything. So while we're sitting here hearing stories and being encouraged, we have to make a decision today. Are we going to be the power of we and let the power of me win? Or are we going to band together and say enough is enough? Here is the thing. I don't look like you. I don't act like you. I don't talk like you. And that's okay with me, and it should be okay with you. But at the very basic level, we share one thing in common. We are human beings. And we desire the same thing, to be seen, to be heard, and to be respected. That is the power of we. Being able to look at something that's different and still see beauty and value. Looking at someone who don't think like you, dress like you, eat like you, talk like you, and still find value. To see someone who don't believe the same things you do and still find value. That is the power of we. And the power of we can cut through, destroy, tear down, dismantle the power of me. So it just takes courageous people. It just takes courageous people to stand up against the power of me. That was a lot. And that was me encouraging me against the power of me. Because on a good day, I'll pray for you. On a bad day, something totally different. I'm just being honest with me. But the power that lives inside of me comes against me on every given day. And not everybody have that power in them. So it's up to us to help them, to remind them, to save them from the power of me. I live in Bloomfield, and I say that Bloomfield is the nicest state in the state of Connecticut, the nicest town in Connecticut, and I will continue to say that because the Bible said, speak those things that aren't as if they were. That means there's power in my tongue. There's power in my words. So when we see someone who is fighting the power of me, there's power in our tongue. There's power in our words to say, stop it. We will not accept that here anymore. Because the power of me is what's trying to suppress the power of we. So whether it's someone lying in the newspaper trying to manipulate us by just telling them their version of a story, when the truth is not in him and or her, those who know better need to call out that power of me for the betterment of the power of we. If we stand back and let the power of me win, we are all, let me say it again, we are all responsible. The saying, the only thing for evil to prevail is for good men to stand back and do nothing. It's time for us to step up as the collective we and put the power of me under our feet. Let the church say, amen.
I think she did a drop the mic thing right there. Just mic running. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I finally got this one working. To make our life easier. I want to bring up next, and these are people from your community that were in this section, one or two, that are from Bloomfield, because these are the people who are working in your community, and it's time to get to know them because often a lot of people doing the great work, you just don't know. And then people run for office, you go, who are they? I never seen them before. Well, you're going to see something tonight. We all been in that boat. So I want to bring up Mr. Aaron Scott, or Ms. Aaron Scott, whatever, okay? And Aaron is a LGBTQ plus community activist in Bloomfield.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to offer a poem summing up a lot of the sentiments mentioned here today. Though one thing did come to mind, and being in a church, it definitely just brought me to it, but it reminded me of an old verse that I knew of in Matthew 25:40, when Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." That means when you help out the least, you help out everyone. The poem I'll be reading to you today is one by Mr. Langston Hughes, titled, "Let America Be America Again." Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plains seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality, dare I say equity, is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, of power, of gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, hungry, humble, mean, hungry, yet today despite the dream. Beaten yet today, oh pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lay, and torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung, all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again. That land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, the Indians, the Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose, the steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the trees, the rivers, the mountains, and all the endless plain. All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
Well, thank you for that. Aaron, very nice, very nice. Next up, we have another local activist here, Reverend Cornell Lewis. Coming all the way from the back, so give him a minute. But again, we have water up here if you need any. And you see we're sampling these Halloween snacks, so don't be it if you're needing them.
My name is Cornell Lewis. I live here in Bloomfield. How do we end hate across the state? Well, since you talked about Langston, let me quote Langston. I am so tired of waiting, aren't you, for the world to become good, better, and kind. One of the ways I decided to end hate across the state 5 years ago when I saw this coming, because Jesus talks about noticing the signs in the heavens, I started organizing people from the LGBT community, the John Brown Gun Club, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, LGBTQ people, and most recently the trans community. I trained in hand-to-hand combat. And then I told them, get your pistol permit, because we're going to march in love, but we're going to be ready. And so, to me, ending hate across the state means being disciplined. Every rally that you've seen in the last 5 years that goes out, I've been there, and other people that are here today posted up in the church. We've been there. We've been disciplined, and we've never had a problem from the racists, and they've shown up. The Nazis, the white supremacists, and when Brian and I were at the state capitol, the Proud Boys showed up. And we walked up to him. I told the people with me, and I had the trans community right in front. I said, give me 4 on each side. I said, listen for the command. I said, let's go. I put up my fist. They stopped. I said, Proud Boys, you here to listen? They said, well, we might be. And I said, well, if you're here to do anything else, I said, you're going to have a problem. And I said, today I solve all problems. And then I said, capiche? And they said, capiche, Representative Gibson. Then I said, fall back. And we all backed up. And we all posted up. The Proud Boys stood in the driveway of the state capitol like they were rooted. Almost all of them, because one ran, right? Yeah, he ran. I left an opening so he could get out, and he broke and ran like Seabiscuit in the 3rd race at Hialeah. But my point is this. We can love God, as my theological teacher used to say, everybody has the imago Dei, the image of God in them, but sometimes that image is so marred until it's unrecognizable. So what do? We have to understand pragmatically that when white supremacy in America rears its ugly head, it does 3 things. It destroys property, people, and institutions. So we can love God, but being a Christian does not mean you have to be a chump. I'm an ordained minister. I used to fight in martial arts competitions for 10 years, like they do in MMA. Doesn't mean I don't love God. I just like to grapple. And so I think in order to end hate across the state, we need to have pragmatic people that can look at our enemies, because once you understand the nature of a thing, you can determine what it's going to do. So if you have a dog in the house and you leave that steak on the table, you're dealing with a wolf. It's only domesticated, and if you leave that steak up there, or in my case, chocolate cake, it's going to eat it. That's the nature of a dog. The nature of white supremacy means it doesn't like me because I'm black, doesn't like you, brother, because of LGBTQ, and it doesn't like many of us because of whatever. We have a right to defend ourselves, and I say this, ending hate across the state means being disciplined, being legally armed, and marching. And when we go out, the only thing I require of anybody who's with me is that when the enemy comes, we don't run. Because like Billy Joel sang in his song, Goodnight Saigon, we said we'll all go down together. Thank you.
Okay. I'll tell you, he got me worked up. I'm gonna have to go get me a gun permit. Usually we've seen militias training for many years, waiting for that race war and so on. And the fact is, people like what he's sharing are important, because a lot of us believe we need that to protect our homes. And in some places, that's real. And I mean, really real. So I understand his passion, and I'm looking forward to the next speaker, who we have Reverend Turbush Emmanuel Congregational Church of Hartford.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I realized as I got here, by the way, that I should have worn my Emmanuel t-shirt. I really like these ones that you and Bloomfield Congregational Church have that say, don't hate, love. The Emmanuel shirt that I would have worn would have said, love, and work for justice. I should have had that on. I want to give some advice to my colleague, Sean Fisher. By the way, do not offer prayers to change the weather. And one other thing, and I'm sure the rabbi will agree with me, do not offer to influence the outcome of sporting events, because you won't work there either. When Brian asked me to talk here, my first thought was to begin by talking about the hate that we've seen in the world, to talk about a former president who wanted to ban Muslims from coming into our country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Or I would have talked about police officers who murder black young men. Or I would have talked about Hamas and Israel and the hatred that exists there. Or I could have talked about what happened in Lewiston just this past week when 18 people were murdered by an assault weapon carrier. And then I thought, no, instead of doing that, I want to give you a theological lesson this afternoon. So in case you're tempted to kind of nod off or close your eyes and not pay attention, I'll be brief. But I want to challenge a notion that has a lot of current value behind the scenes, and that is the notion of original sin. Original sin was a concept that was developed in Christianity, and what original sin says is that every human being is born with a sin nature. Some of our Christian denominations say you have to get baptized in order to clean that up, to take the stain of that sin away. And by the way, some even say that if a baby doesn't get baptized and dies, they end up in some sort of intermediate state between heaven and hell. But original sin is behind much of the hatred that has been perpetrated in the name of the Christian religion. Examples: the genocide of Native Americans that happened because they're sinful, because they're pagan. That's just one example. I don't want to go into a history lesson, but I do want to say to you that there has been an alternative view that has also been true in the Christian religion, broadly speaking. And millions of Christians across the world understand a different way of thinking than original sin. And that is a concept called original blessing. Original blessing. It's illustrated best, I think, by being reminded, as I am this afternoon, about the Celtic Christian tradition in which midwives, when they are assisting at a birth, and they hold that baby in their arms for the first time, they say that they are looking at the face of God in that infant. So original blessing means that we don't come into the world as sinful people, vile, to be condemned unless something happens and we get converted. But original blessing says we come created by God in the image of God. And for me, that represents a dramatically different way of thinking about each one of you and every other person in the world. Does it make a difference if I look at you and I think, you are sinful? Or if I look at you and I say with tenderness, you are made in the image and likeness of God. I just want us to understand this afternoon, as has already been said more eloquently than I will say it, what the world needs now is love. And the way to love is for me to look at you and you to look at me and us to look at every other person in the whole world and say, there's the image of God. Love. Thanks.
Yes, I got you. Next to the mic, we have a representative of the Urban League of Greater Hartford, Connecticut. They do amazing work in our state. Mr. David Hopkins.
Good afternoon. So my name is David Hopkins. I am the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Hartford. I came to Connecticut in 2019 to be a part of the Urban League movement. Many of you know the Urban League is a legacy civil rights organization that started in 1910, really to address the challenges that America faced coming out of Reconstruction, which followed the emancipation of slavery. And the Urban League has worked over the last 100+ years nationally and 59 years here locally to promote racial equity through economic empowerment. We distinguish ourselves from other organizations primarily by that, and we focus on 5 pillars that we believe make specifically, but not exclusively, the Black American community more economically mobile. That's through education, employment, housing, health, and justice. And our national CEO, Mark Morial, recently identified what he calls 3 Ds to try to express more emphasis on those things. To defend democracy, demand diversity, and defeat disparities. And, here in the conversations today, really kind of brings a lot of light on those first 2 as much as any of them, and that, our democracy is really built for a space for us to operate and interact equitably. However, it's not practiced that way. And our ability to be able to put the right people in office in order to move legislation forward, because as a politician once told me, if I can legislate it, I can enforce it, and I can fund it. And so a lot of times that's what the motivation is and driver is, to make sure the right people are in the right places. But this demanding diversity is important because of all the things that we've heard here today. And what I like most about this is that this conversation is that I can remember growing up in school, and I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and 35 kids in a classroom, and inevitably it was going to be a fight or something was going to happen or jump off, what have you. And so, but it would be typically one person who would hold the rest of the classroom hostage, and everyone who kind of knew what was right to do to be appropriate, especially when you think about when substitute teachers would come in. And what I like about this conversation, what I see happening slowly but surely, is that the people who want to do right are no longer being held hostage by the one who wants to do wrong and bad. And I think this is an example of that, and we can see this power in unity and removing the me and becoming more of the we. And I really believe that what we do in the Urban League movement, it reflects a lot of what I feel personally is why I work there, and I feel like my work is not necessarily work, but me actually being able to get paid to do what I love to do, and that is to put Black people in the best position possible to be able to receive the things that we've been denied strategically over years. But I think more importantly is that the voice that is coming together and the allyship that is being embraced among groups is the most empowering thing. So I'm grateful for the invitation to come here. I know some people went over their time, so I'm gonna give some of that back. Yeah, indeed, I got you, man. All right, thank you very much.
That's a hard act to follow right there, especially close that out. And let me not mess that up, so let me keep it going. Up next is one of our own, Mr. Christopher Dukes, who is the American Justice Project. I can't give you nothing too easy, man.
It's it's out there. I'm sorry. Are you all talking to me? Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, folks. Again, thank you for coming out here on this rainy day. I am here. A lot of you are strangers to me. You don't know me. A lot of folks do know me here. Those who do know me know that I am here solely by the full and amazing grace of the God that I serve. That's why I'm here. There were so many things that could have taken me out over the last 5 years that have not. However, I am here. My name is Christopher Dukes. I'm the president and co-founder of American Justice Project Incorporated, AJP. AJP is a community-led, cause-driven oversight agency bringing solutions to wrongful convictions, mass incarceration, and abuse of power. Our work and impact are framed within 3 pillars. That is injustice disruption, transparency and accountability, and public education. Social injustices are likened to toxins that hinder the growth and stability of individuals and communities. Just as toxins harm plant life, injustices harm the well-being of people and their communities. The conscious and unconscious choice to ignore hateful injustices, domestic terrorism, as some of us say, perpetuated against our own people by state actors and alike, often with impunity and immunity, must stop. Benjamin Franklin had once said, "It is better that 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer." That quote captures a fundamental principle of justice. It prioritizes the protection of innocent individuals, even if it means that some guilty individuals may escape punishment. This principle emphasizes the importance of preventing the wrongful conviction and suffering of innocent people, which is a cornerstone of a fair and just legal system. Franklin's quote underscores the significance of due process, evidence-based decision-making, and the avoidance of any undue harm to individuals who are innocent of crimes of which they are accused. However, since 1989, there's been more than 3,000 innocent Americans who have been convicted and exonerated for crimes they did not commit. Remember, all those folks were supposed to go free. Over 3,000. That's 3,000 individuals, their families, and communities who have been harmed by our system. The brunt of this ongoing inequity has fallen heavily on black. Yeah, the city is on fire, right? Yeah, I know, right? So the brunt of the ongoing inequity has fallen heavily on black and brown Americans. For example, police and prosecutors often use abusive tactics, also known as chokeholds, and there's an illustration here for you all to see, in its policing of our citizens. We can quantify the impact of this form of injustice. So a couple of facts that I want to share with you. As of a couple of weeks ago, there were 3,356 exonerations. Over 900 of those were for crimes that never even happened. All right? I know this too well, and this is why I read this, because I get very passionate, because I'm one of those individuals who has suffered that. And I am still suffering some of those. What you're seeing on this illustration is me. Myself, my children, and my family have sustained a 16-point chokehold. Some of these are gone in my life, and some of them remain, which is, again, why I'm being tactful in terms of staying onto this. Of those individuals, there's been over 29,950 years lost. That's how many years combined all those individuals served in prisons for crimes they did not commit. 55% of those exonerations involved official misconduct, 60% false accusations and perjury, 15% were people who succumbed to the chokehold and they pled guilty knowing that they did not commit those crimes. Quantitatively, we can describe those detrimental effects upon wrongfully accused and convicted individuals that include loss of freedom, damage of reputation, emotional and psychological distress, strained relationships, legal and financial burdens. For example, I am in debt of over $400,000, okay, myself. I'm just trying to give you real-life examples of what happens. There's lingering trauma. There's post-exoneration challenges. There's health challenges. And there's loss of time, which is probably one of the most valuable things we can ever have. Folks, America has failed in this regard. Connecticut has failed. New Haven is an epicenter of wrongful incarcerations. Yet and still, we have not seen any laws or any policies passed to hold those individuals who put those people through it accountable. Where's the $100 billion that's being requested to go elsewhere to go to help repair and restore these families? And I don't want to take anything from anybody else. My point is, these are Americans harmed by our American systems, and there's no talk about restoring them financially. I'm getting to my conclusion. So, AJP directs its efforts towards providing effective solutions to this matter by performing chokehold assessments free of charge to the individuals. For those individuals seeking help against malicious prosecutions, so far, our assessments have led to individuals escaping more than 100 years of wrongful incarceration. So in essence, in the midst of my own personal storm, I didn't have my woe is me parties, did something, prayed on it, got direction. I moved forward and making something positive to help others, not just myself. This is the call to action that applies to you all. American Justice Project Incorporated is reaching out to all members of the public, urging their participation in our movement to end the chokehold. We are inviting individuals to actively engage by contributing their gifts, talents, donations, etc. to Coalition Organize Against Chokeholds. This is an initiative that we are kicking off. I am starting to do a campaign throughout the state and trying to recruit folks to be involved. I have not met with GIA yet. I'm familiar with GIA as well, Connect, and others. This is something that is so doable, it is so easy that we can help individuals throughout this. This is a collective effort that is aimed toward taking meaningful actions towards helping the afflicted and improving our communities. Coach was designed to provide a vivid imagery that illustrates how systemic injustices can harm and hinder the potential individuals, preventing them from thriving, and in many cases, exerting a chokehold with enduring influence, expanding generations. Because we are in a church, I have to close with this in saying that Ecclesiastes 3 reminds us that there's a purpose for everything under the skies. This present hour calls upon individuals to stand firmly on the front line, opposing and eradicating the perpetuation of systemic chokeholds. The book of James also teaches us in chapter 2, verses 14 through 17, that faith without action is dead. Furthermore, as expressed in James chapter 4, 17, if someone knows the right thing to do and does not do it, it is sin. AJP is calling for you to do the right thing. Join us, support us, help free our people from decades of abuse. Reverse what has been indoctrinated in our schools, daily, in our media. I can say that some of those elements did apply to me, some of them are gone, but even though I was facing 40 years in prison and then received, because I did my own assessment, every single criminal charge was dropped 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Yet and still, just last week, I started being able to have unsupervised visits with my children, and I committed no crime. And we can applaud that, and I have to take that and applaud, and I accept that. But what a shame on the state of Connecticut that you've separated. When I say I'm a God-fearing father, I was my children's rock star and hero, but false accusations and perjury got in the way of that. But even though it was 4 years ago that this was all dismissed, the state of Connecticut still kept my beautiful children away from me. And that is something folks will have to answer for. And I can tell you, I did everything. When they say something, you see something, say something. I've stood in front of the Capitol. Folks know me. Representative Gibson knows me, and so forth. However, the corruption in our state is so well insulated. It is so well protected. And I can't give you the exact reason why, but I can tell you that the people who know about it, the elected officials who know about it, haven't done anything to lift a finger to take care of it. However, that's why I started by saying it's by the full grace of God. This was God's plan to have them do whatever they did not to help, because he's all the help that I need. Thank you very much.
So it's pretty amazing, as you could tell with Christopher, you know, he had an issue and actually did something and turned this into an organization. We have 4 more speakers, and then we'll be giving you your Sunday back. Coming up next is Undear Ruth. She's the executive director of the, and I hope I got that right, okay, of the Greater Hartford YWCA. Now, this is what it says right here, so I'm going to.
It's all right. It gets messed up all the time. I am Yanita Ruth, YWCA Hartford Region, and I am going to give you some of your time back. I just want to talk about the YWCA, who is on a mission for action. We're here. Our programs work hard every day to eliminate racism and empower women. We offer programs that helps meet the needs of the community who walks in all walks of life. We serve over in transition lives for nearly 2,000 women, children, and families. And so we have about 8 programs at the YWCA. Some of them, and I have some brochures that I have left there for you all, community engagement and advocacy, our Denise conference, money conference for women, our early learning center, our emergency shelter, our Persimmon Petals, Young Women's Leadership Corps, and our YW Career Women. The YW Career Women and the Young Women's Leadership Corps is a program that I am the director of. So we have 10 schools throughout the Hartford region. And one of the things that we teach in our schools is that we first teach the young ladies to identify who they are. Because you cannot advocate for yourself unless you know who you are. And once they know who they are, then we can begin to teach them how to advocate for themselves, and not just advocate, but know how to advocate successfully. So when they advocate for themselves, then guess what? They can have a seat at the table. And once they have a seat at the table, their voices can be heard. And so this is what we teach them. Amongst other things in the classroom, is that you have to advocate for yourself, because if you don't advocate for yourself, who will? And what we believe is that if we teach them at an early age, then guess what? They won't have to go through the things that we're going through at our age. We believe that if we get the kids, then we can get the families, because kids will teach their parents. They'll go home and they'll teach their parents. You know, they come home and they'll tell you everything that they learned, sometimes the good and the bad. So at the YWCA, that is what we aim to do. And though women is our focus, we accept everybody. When we advocate on behalf of everybody. Even though women is our focus, because we are the YWCA, okay? But that is what we strive to do. That is why we have our money conference. That is why we have our Persimmon Petals. And for those of you who do not know what that is our new flower shop that we have at the YWCA. Every time you purchase a flower for Persimmon Petals, guess where it goes? To the Women and Girls Program. So you're not just buying a flower, you're also supporting the community. And so that information is on our flowers right there. And so just understand that the YWCA Hartford region is on a mission, and we are here for you. Thank you.
I'm asking her to say her name.
My name is Yanita Ruth. That's my name. Yanita Ruth. Ruth is my last name. Even though I write it that way, say it that way, they still turn it around. But Yanita Ruth is my name.
Next up, thank you, dear. We have Shamar Anthony Mahone, and he's our Bloomfield City Council Republican. He's a good one. Hold it now. He's a good one.
First, thank you very much for having me. I want to thank Pastor Sean, First Congregation, as well as Brian Donahue, not just us, the entire organization. I want to thank all of you as well for being here today, because I understand how difficult it is to come out in the rain. But nonetheless, you all made sure that you were here to stand for a cause, to drive out hate across the state, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, as I was driving in, just like all of you, thinking about coming here in the rain, I thought about what it takes to really drive hate out of this state, drive hate out of this country, drive hate out right here in our town of Bloomfield. Persistence. Persistence is what brought you all here today. Commitment to the cause is what brought you all here today. Persistence allows us to keep on pushing forward even though the rain makes us weary, even though it drowns us out. Persistence still brought you here today. So I want to thank you all for committing yourself to the cause of love, to ensuring that as one people, because that's what we are at the end of the day, one community, one Bloomfield, one Connecticut, one America, one world. I want to thank you all because it takes that persistence to make the exact difference that we need across the world. Thank you. Looks like I'm saving time as well.
I'll tell you, thank you. That 4 o'clock is coming, okay? And next, I want to bring up our timekeeper. And he's with Justice Southbury, and they've done something remarkable in Justice Southbury. Mr. Jeremy Farrell.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Brian, and everybody from Not Just Us for helping run this. These rallies are always incredible, and this has been no exception. So I have quite a bit of information to share, but I've given this spiel like 50 times, so hopefully I can get through it very quickly. So just to start, I am Jeremy Farrell. I am a queer, Jewish, autistic activist from Brookfield, Connecticut, which is next to Danbury, if you don't know. And I am the rally coordinator for Justice Southbury. What is Justice Southbury? It is a social justice initiative that began the week after George Floyd was murdered that has continued rallying every week since. We are on week 179. In fact, as we were piling in here at 2 o'clock, they were meeting again on the corner in Southbury for the 179th time. Persistence and commitment, I could not agree more, is a huge part of this. So what have we done over that time? Well, we've done a lot of things. Some of the main things we've done is we've helped collect resources for a bunch of important organizations. We collected school supplies for Afghanistan refugee children. We collected clothing for homeless individuals in Waterbury. We've stocked this Southbury food bank for 2 years now, stocking it every month with, I think, 30 bottles of juice. We do a lot to support those in our community, because those in our community is what we're really about, giving power to the people who it's always taken away from. So we've also been involved in responding to quite a few events. We've responded to white supremacist literature drops around the state. We've responded to book banning efforts around the state. We've responded to the push of different groups like the neo-Nazi group around the state. And through this, we have learned a lot about what the work we're doing and what we need to do. And we have taken that even further and made sure that this is an educational, informational experience for all of us. And just as an example of that, one of the projects that we have been doing is sharing quotes and stories from Americans who were born into slavery. These are not shared very often because we simply don't think there are a lot of them, but there are hundreds. Just from the National Slave Archive Project, we have been able to quote dozens of Americans born into slavery about their opinions, about what they felt about the world, bringing perspective and humanization to people who obviously deserve it, but we still think we just don't know how to offer. And through this, one thing that has come up time and time again in these quotes and stories is the feeling that how things are done are important. It's not just what things are done, but how things are done. You can do things for a good reason, but do they actually help the people you're trying to help? There is a surprising amount of Americans who were born into slavery who will say slavery needed to end, and they did it in a way that left us to fend for ourselves. They did it in a way that is disgusting and morally irreprehensible. The people that we are trying to help, that we are supposed to be here forming community with, are so often left behind in these movements. And we at Justice Southbury seek to make sure this doesn't happen again. We believe that the power is true, the progress is truly found in people having their power, having trans people come to our corner to talk about getting to go to their prom in a tux and how that felt like one of the most important moments in their lives. People coming to our corner to tell us that they felt comfortable moving their biracial children to Southbury because they saw what we were doing. People who feel safe, who feel supported because of the work we do. We are all part of a history of activism, going back to Americans who were born to slavery and before. We are all building on what has come before, on the past and the present. We are building on this side of the state and that side of the state, on one issue to another. And when we come together, when we really work together, we can build a better future for all of us. None of us are free until we are all free. One thing we talk about in Justice Southbury a lot is the bat signal. This is my Rick Richardson, who also helped runs it, loves to bring this up. The bat signal is basically the idea that when something happens that we need to be aware of, people know that they can let us know, and we will be there for them. That they know who they can turn to for these types of things. And I want everybody in this room to know that as well. When you need Justice Southbury to have your back, we do. Justice Southbury is here today, even if it's just me, because we stand with you against hate, and we always will. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. We have great partners here, right? We have one speaker left. Very, very important. I'll tell you, she's pretty amazing, and when I first met her, I was like, hey, this is a pretty big person. I call me a big guy, you know. But I want to bring up someone who is an advocate, a fighter, all across this state, talking about being there. This is Laura Timmons.
Well, I'm truly blessed to be here today. You know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have some of the two beautiful singers besides the poet. I've listened to them a lot. So thanks to Justice Southbury, I've learned a lot. You know, I'm actually, you know, I have privilege, okay, and I'll admit that. And I'm actually benefited from our white racist society, okay, and I truly admit that. And so what do I do to give back to the community? I learn, okay? And so here's a quote. After looking at all the books that have been banned, I'm like, okay, well, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, book by Frederick Douglass. How many people here know Frederick Douglass? Sure, a lot of you, okay? So, Frederick Douglass, quote, right is of no sex, truth is of no color, God is the Father of us all, and we're all brethren. How beautiful was that? In the church on a Sunday. But you know what? That's the past. And he did a great job. And we're at the present, where we're teetering between doing what's right and doing what's wrong. I'd like to show you some of the stuff that's really wrong in the world. If you can pass that around, 25 non-conforming. November's hard for me. Transgender Day of Awareness is coming up. Transgender Day of Remembrance is coming up on March 20th. Okay, so at least 25 transgender non-conforming individuals have been brutally murdered, okay, and that we know of in 2020. There's probably a lot more. but that's all we know. And so, imagine getting pushed in the street, assaulted, run over by a car because you're transgender. You know, imagine getting shot, targeted because you're transgender. Well, this happens. And so I decided to come out when I knew that I'm privileged. I'm going to try to make a change in the world. I work at a great job that accepts me for who I am. I live in a great city that supports the Middletown Pride. I'm not sure if you've been there. And also a great state of Connecticut. It has great laws that help me live in an authentic manner. And so I'm more of a different perspective, okay? What did I try to do? I tried a grassroots effort, okay? I joined my city commissions, okay? So I'm part of the LGBTQIA commission. I had a friend who committed suicide on Thanksgiving Day because all her family rejected her. Okay, she had no family, no place to go, and all you see on TV is, you know, family. Well, my brothers haven't talked to me since I came out. But you know what? I got a great chosen family. You know what? All around here, you see me hug all my brothers and sisters. And you know what? I decided that we wanted to sponsor a Friendsgiving in Middletown this year. And you know what? It got funded. It's going to be called Pridesgiving, okay, on Wednesday Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And you know what? It's going to be a celebration of a chosen family, okay? Imagine that. Imagine going to the Safety Commission and saying, hey, you know what? Feces were spread on flags, LGBTQI flags in Middletown. What are you going to do about it, Chief Costa? And you know what? They actually did an arrest because we followed that up. And you know what? Going into schools, going into the streets, it all starts with people working in the government, participating in commissions, helping make solutions, volunteering, and participating in ERGs at work, doing things. Sending a check just doesn't do it, okay? And it's up to you to make the future. I promise that I'm going to make the world a better place, to make that little pendulum swing, but I need everybody's help to do it. And I really hope you guys join me on my journey through this wonderful future that lies ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. About to close the session today, I want you to know I got to thank Pastor Sean back there. I mean, he's been pretty amazing. And the information that we have, you go to Not Just Us on Facebook, and we will have contact information like the emails, because I know you didn't get a chance to do that today. And I know some of you want to get in touch with some of the people personally, and when something happens, to come out. Real quick, what can we do? We're an online organization. We advocate. We literally have different speakers on that we have come on, such as Senator Blumenthal, our congressman, and so on, so they know what you're talking about. We're about to go into a legislative mode in about a month or two. What you can do to help, you talk to your families about white supremacy. Don't let it be a secret. Don't let it be something, because they're going to hear it anyway on social media and everything else. Let them know where you stand in your family. And we know that we have some people that it's difficult to talk about, but I think you're big enough to handle it. So the neo-Nazis, the white supremacy, the battle against the LGBTQ is so important at this time, especially with the people who are elected. And we do have elections next year. So I'm glad the gentleman joined us today. Very true, the 7th, that's right. The 7th, you got to see who these people are that we're voting in. We have a big battle in Washington, and already Senator Blumenthal's like, my God, but here we are. And finally, there's a movie that is on Hulu called Tulsa Burning. You should all watch that. It puts everything in perspective that says Why aren't we further along in our communities? And it's the simple story that's been hidden that came out a couple of years ago, and they're still trying to get justice for all of these people that were killed because they had something called Black Wall Street, did everything that we could, and then the typical white woman raped, and all of the townspeople came in and destroyed the whole town. They were doctors, lawyers, very wealthy black people, and they razed it to the ground. And to this day, they're trying to recover the bodies that they just dumped into the river. So that's where we are right now. I'm going to turn it over here to my friend Jeremy, because, oh, there you go.
Hey, I'm going to end the rally quickly. Let's finish this out strong. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Remember, please follow not just us on Facebook, Justice Southbury, you can follow on Facebook too. There's also resources up here. If anybody's looking for them, feel free to leave them as well for everybody else is here. We do not have the church for much longer, but we will be around, and we're always happy to talk either now or virtually, however you'd like. So the way that we're going to end this rally is the way we end every Justice Southbury rally. You'll pick up on it really quick. I'm going to ask you if you're fired up. You're going to say you're fired up. I'm going to ask if you're ready to go. You're going to say you're ready to go. Are you fired up? Ready to go? Fired up? Ready to go? Fired up? Ready to go? Let's go change the world and remind everyone hate has no home here in Connecticut. Thank you.
We thank you for today. Is there a person by the name of Amy from Code? There's Amy from Code. Could we get like 2 more minutes, Reverend? You sure? Well, I want to say Code is, well, actually, come on up so I can, because you're doing a lot of great work, and just something happened in her town that she covers very recently in the last 2 days, or I think it was 2 days, right? A white supremacist group came up. And I'm just going to ask you for a shorter time, but if you could just quickly talk about Code. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Amy DiMatteo. I'm the president of the Coalition on Diversity and Equity, and we cover the towns of Hebron, Marlborough, Andover, and Columbia. And I've been very inspired by everybody here. We are not experts in what we do. We tend to listen to everybody else and learn from everybody else and bring people in to educate the masses. That's what we've found is most effective, community conversations and having discussion about important topics, specifically housing for us is a pretty important issue. We've had the lit drop from the white supremacy group in Marlborough this past week, and so we've been encouraged, we've made a statement, and then also we've encouraged the town government and the school districts to speak out against it as well. So that's just me. Mm-hmm. No, it was a pamphlet with just rocks in it to keep it on this thing. Okay, thank you.
And with that, we'll say thank you again to the Reverend Fisher and the Bloomfield Congregational Church, and